Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of Quran Daily, where we go through a chapter a day for the holy month of Ramadan of the Quran, read in Arabic but discussed in English. My name is Ahmed, and on the call with me I have Captain Imad. Say hi, Captain.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be with you guys.
And we're getting back into chapter 101 from Al-Qari'ah. As you know, we've been starting the series from the very last verse, which was Al-Nas, and we've made it to Al-Qari'ah. But before we begin, we must always say that we are not linguists in the Arabic or students of the Arabic language, nor are we scholars of Quranic studies. We are merely undergoing a journey to discover the Quran and learn about it and share our learning with you. So if you see something that you understand differently or have a different perspective on, please feel free to drop a comment, drop a message. We welcome all different kind of perspectives on this show. It's the point of this channel is to learn, and we hope that we share this learning journey with you and that it's useful for you too. Before we get into the Quran, we must always say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, which means I seek refuge from God from the devil, and in the name of God, who's most merciful and whose mercy is most encompassing. Over to you, Captain Ahmad.
اوكي، اعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. سورة القارعة. معنى كلمة القارعة هي التي تقرع أي تضرب.
So the meaning of the word qari'ah is that which strikes or which hits or smacks.
Not only strikes, but it strikes with a huge sound.
It's like a dong. It's like a big, those
Huge, loud voice, loud sound, very loud. The sound itself is a torture.
Yeah, so it says the striking calamity, the striking disaster. Here, the words that we use aren't describing it, but it's a very loud and powerful sound. Like it's kind of like,
تمام.
yeah.
نقرا السورة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. القارعة ما القارعة وما أدراك ما القارعة يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش فأما من ثقلت موازينه فهو في عيشة راضية وأما من خفت موازينه فأمه هاوية وما أدراك ما هي نار حامية. القارعة ما القارعة. We explain what the word قارعة means. The second verse is like بحث الناس إنهم يسألوا شو القارعة.
So
القارعة it's provoking a response.
It's a question. It's kind of saying, what is Al-Qari'ah? What is the Qari'ah?
تمام. وما أدراك ما القارعة. How would you know about القارعة?
What would make you know about what the striking calamity? And you'll notice Ma al-Qari'ah, it's kind of it builds. It's also kind of very poetic and very beautiful. It starts with Al-Qari'ah, Ma al-Qari'ah, wa ma adraka ma al-Qari'ah. So it's kind of like building on to the sentence and grows longer and longer.
So the answer comes at verse number 4. يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث. It's the day where people look like butterflies flying all over the place, like كيف الفراش بيطير بالهواء بمجموعات هائلة هيك.
Scattered moths flying in every direction, kind of going wild. So this is the day of the Qari'ah, the striking calamity, the big impending sound, is the day that people will be like moths that are scattered moths. Sure.
طبعا القارعة we have to mention إنه هاي إحدى أسماء يوم القيامة.
So
والقارعة والصاخة والطامة واليوم الحشر.
So
له أسماء عديدة.
So the name of Al-Qari'ah is one of the names of the Day of Judgment. And there are many names of the Day of Judgment. He mentioned a bunch of the names. I'm not going to translate them all. But Al-Qari'ah is one of the names of the Day of Judgment. So we know that this is talking about the Day of Judgment. And we also know about it from the description of these verses. Like the day that people are like moths scattered. And then it says, verse 5.
أما من ثقلت. Verse 5 it says وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش. العهن اللي هو الصوف.
Yeah, and mountains will be like wool that is fluffed up. Like it's just like it's hard to think of a mountain that's very solid and very big and very large and very stable, that it becomes like just very soft wool. It's a very interesting expression to hear.
Okay. وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش فأما من ثقلت موازينه. ثقلت الموازين معناها بالأعمال الصالحة، عنده أعمال صالحة كثيرة، ميزانه بيكون ثقيل بالأعمال الصالحة, which means he has done so many good deeds in his life.
Yeah, so here it's saying that his scales are heavy, and here we understand the scales to be heavy as a good thing, and we can also get it from the next verse as well. But here it's saying it's the scales of measurement of a person's life of are you doing good, are you doing bad? The good is overwhelmed, and so here it talks about for those whose scales are heavy with good deeds, what happens to them?
فهو في عيشة راضية. He's living content and happy.
In a life that is bliss. He will be in a life of bliss. Yeah.
وأما من خفت موازينه,
And here's the opposite. And whoever
those who haven't done enough good deeds, good actions in their lives, they have very little of good deeds. What will happen to them?
And it's interesting that it says the description of it doesn't say bad. It's not talking about the bad deeds. It's talking about whether you're good or bad. It's a collection of how many good things have you done in your life. Like that's
Not enough good things. خفت موازينه, not enough good things in his scale.
Yeah, but like even for the people who are evil or do sin or do whatever, the measurement that they're being like measured against isn't how many bad deeds have you done. It's how many good deeds have you done. This is the measurement of scale. Like even as a bad person, your worth is how much good have you put into the world.
تمام.
Yeah. So what happens to the person whose scales are light?
وأما من خفت موازينه فأمه هاوية.
Which
أمه.
this made me laugh the first time I read it because I misread it. I misunderstood what this verse means.
Tell me, what did you think it was?
So I thought the word فأمه means so his mother.
Yes, this is exactly what it means.
But like I understand it to be like his home from from what I read from the translations, and which I understand. Your mother can be like a metaphorical version of your home, but it's more about your home being, and Hawiya meaning like a silly person. So here I thought it was like insulting his mother. Your mother's a silly person. I mean,
No. فأمه هاوية. الإنسان لما بيكون خايف ومرتعب وين بيروح لعند أمه؟ بيروح لعند أمه البيبي. وين بيروح؟
When someone is afraid or terrified, who does he go to? He goes to his mother. A child is afraid, goes to its mother.
The guy who was really bad in his first life will have the hell, the valley in hell as his mom taking care of it.
Yeah, well, I kind of want to clarify. It doesn't say that they were really bad. It just says that they weren't doing enough good. Whose good deeds didn't weigh that much. Because also you could be a person who doesn't hurt anyone, doesn't sin, doesn't do anything, but as long as you're not doing any good deeds, then you're also having light scales. So it's not just for bad people who do negative things. It's just someone who just doesn't do enough, doesn't spread enough of their wealth.
The verse has used the word Arabic scale. Scale, yeah. You're weighing something against something, good against bad.
Yeah, but it only gives us one understanding of the weight. So in the previous version, it said ثقلت, his scales are heavy or his scales are light, and it's considering both. Like it's scales is like you think of it as a way of weighing something or measuring something's worth. And it's not saying that his good deeds are less than. It's just saying heavy scales or light scales. And for me, the way that I understand it is good deeds rather than good deeds and negative deeds. Or do you have a different perspective?
It is a comparison between good deeds and bad deeds. ليش؟ لأن في عنا آية في القرآن الكريم بتقول أقم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل إن الحسنات يذهبن السيئات.
So he's saying that it is the good deeds versus negative versus bad deeds in comparison, and the difference between those weights. Because there's another verse in the Quran which says there are good deeds.
الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل إن الحسنات يذهبن السيئات.
Commit prayer 2 times of the day and a part of the night. And that good deeds undo the bad deeds. So there is a form of comparison between both. I understand But whenever I see khaffat and thaqulat, I always see like the scales are heavy and the scales are light. So for me, it does seem to be talking about good deeds rather than
It is talking about good deeds. It is talking about good deeds, but in opposition of what? Of bad deeds. What's the opposite of good deeds?
It's not necessarily in opposition. It's being weighed. It's like you're going to.
What's on the other side on the scale? What's on the other side of the scale? There is a good deeds, and what's the opposite to it in front of it?
If you go to a marketplace in the olden times, they'd put just weights that they can use to measure whatever it is that you brought. If you bring them gold,
exactly.
Yeah, but
exactly.
Weights are ways of measuring. They're not necessarily the opposite of the thing that you're talking about. So there's a way
opposite in location. Opposite in location. We have scales. You put whatever you want to weigh, and it gives you an indication, a reading. It doesn't have two sides of the weighing scale, the old weighing scale.
Yeah. Okay, but this does not have to mean A, the old weighing scale. B, all it's talking about is it's khaffat mawazinahu, his scales are light and his scales are heavy. And if it's heavy or light, it means it's only measuring it from one side. It's not measuring it from both.
Okay.
Anyway,
let's not spend a lot of time on this.
Sure. So the person whose scales are light, then his abode is the pit, the abyss.
الهاوية هي يهوي فيها الإنسان، هي حفرة عميقة بينرمى فيها في جهنم، فأمه هاوية. This would be his mother that's going to nurture him and take care of him in hell.
Yeah, but I also understood it as his abode, his home will be in that hole in hell.
تمام.
Yeah. And what is the abode in hell?
وما أدراك ما هي. What is it? What is the هاوية هذه? It's simple. نار حامية, raging fire.
Yeah, very clear, very intense. There's a lot of fire in the Quran, but yeah.
And there's a lot of good stories about heaven and people who had led a good life in their past lives. There's a description of Jannah and أنهار من لبن وعسل وخمر. There is description of everything.
We'll get to all those descriptions, and usually they're paired. So whenever it has a mention of heaven, then like here it says في عيشة راضية, and then it gives فأمه هاوية. So whenever there's heaven, there's hell. There's always the counterbalance. Cool. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This will conclude our video. Catch you guys tomorrow. As usual, we always end with صدق الله العلي العظيم, which means trusted is the word of God, who is most elevated and most high. Thanks for watching. مع السلامة.